Will you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a roll call?
Mr. Cook.
Present.
Mrs. Adriano.
Here.
Mr. Rogan.
Here.
Mrs. Smith. Here. Mr. Williams.
Here. First up tonight is a presentation from the Patterson Library on their new trustee, Denise.
All right, I would like to introduce our newest trustee.
Yes, you got to stand.
She's going to let you know a little bit
Wait,
more about herself.
that was the introduction?
Perfect. Well, last time. He's just trying to give me a hard time. It's okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Denise, for that lovely introduction. Looking forward to working together with the library and with the town board. Encouraging people to come out and see what's happening at the library. A lot of things are going on down there. It's not just about taking out.
What's your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Debbie Weigel. I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. My husband Tim and I have lived here for 30+ years. We raised our child here, and we love it here. We're hoping to stay another 30. So, and on that note, I'm very excited to be working with the Patterson Library. I encourage people to come out, whether it's not just about books. You can come down and learn a language. You can come down and learn a new skill, or you can just come down and connect with other people. So, looking forward to working with everybody. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Welcome on board.
Thank you.
I know you're going to be a tremendous asset knowing your background.
Oh, thank you.
All right, can I get a motion on the reports?
Yes, I will make a motion to accept the code compliance for July 2023, code enforcement for July 2023, dog control officer for July 2023, PCI for June and July 2023, Patterson Fire Department, the second quarter, April 1st, June 30th, 2023, Pup Lake Fire Department, January 1st, 2023, till July 15th, 2023, and Patterson Recreation for July 2023. So,
Second.
All in favor? Can I get a motion on the supervisor's report?
I'll make a motion, we approve the supervisor's report for June 2023 in the amount of $14,425,553.76. So moved.
second.
All in favor?
And I'll move that we approve the town board meeting minutes of June 28th, July 12th, and July 26th, respectively, 2023. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I feel like the audit the bills.
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve abstract number 14, dated July 28, 2023, in the amount of $208,074.28. So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. We have some budget transfers.
We have two. First one is budget transfer request number 11, necessary to allocate additional funds for the Veteran Service Equipment and Capital Outlay account for more additional banner hardware. And this would be moving $669 from the contingent contractual expense accounts to the Veteran Service Equipment and Capital Outlay expense accounts, same amount. I'll make a motion, town board, to approve budget transfer request number 11. So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Next, we have budget transfer request number 12. Following budget transfers necessary to reallocate funds from the Justice Training account for the conference request. And that's moving $242 from Justice contractual expense accounts to same amount from Justice's training expense accounts. So I'll make a motion that the town board approve budget transfer request number 12. So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Rogan, you're up.
Okay, first item is a great introduction for the town of Patterson to a new vendor that will be providing electronic waste services to the town of Patterson coming up. Both myself and Jane Minier, who is our solid waste coordinator for Putnam County Health Department, met with Mr. Ed Foster and Margot Miller of our Highway and sanitation department a couple of weeks ago, and we brought with us a vendor from a company called E-Waste. They operate out of Rochester, New York, and as well as Westchester County. They have facilities. And we rarely say thanks to new legislation from our state, but thanks to new legislation from the DEC, it allows now, instead of the consumer paying for the price of recycling electronic waste like laptop computers and televisions and all the typical things you would think of that we had to pay for to get rid of, now the DEC allows to back charge.
What is that?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, can you mute your audio?
Whose is it?
Hang on.
That's okay. So the law now allows the vendor to back charge the manufacturer. So essentially they take the electronic supplies from the towns, they bring it back to their factory, and they recycle, and in some cases have the products and resell them. And the best part is it's at no cost to the town. So we actually brought them to 4 or 5 towns already. Patterson, Kent, Carmel, and Phillipstown have all signed on with this new company. The county already uses them for recycling of their computers. So great opportunity for the town of Patterson, for our residents to now get rid of those items for free. The law actually does not allow us to charge for them. So it literally, they explain that they take the products back to the workshop, they break them down, they inventory them, and then they back charge the manufacturers, whether it be Sony or whoever the manufacturer is, and they recoup the cost for recycling from that. So as we all know, recycling is a tough business these days. I mean, it used to be that, you remember not that many years ago, that cardboard was so great that we put a compactor in down the mail it up, we used to make money on it. And you can barely get rid of some of those things now. So electronic waste has been a significant problem all across the county, and happy to say that they're already set up to now accept those items. I believe the e-waste, they delivered the shipping containers, can't remember what they call them, but basically pallets with cardboard surrounding. I think they're called gaylers, the boxes, and they, I think, delivered them last week to the recycling center. So they're already up with the new vendor, and they said that they will collect on about a week's notice. So if they fill 2 boxes, they call and they come, and it's just a revolving kind of thing. So that will be great for our residents, that they can now drop those items off with a recycling permit at the recycling center.
So who's sponsoring this, the county or the vendor?
The vendor.
Is there any sort of agreement we need to enter into?
They said we could do either. If we wanted to have an agreement, they would do it, but they just do it on an on-call basis. Most people do it without an agreement, just on an on-call. Just provide the boxes and they'll come and pick them up. And the only thing they want is an area that's protected from the weather, which we have beautifully down there with one of those sheds where we were already collecting the equipment. Some of the other towns that weren't, like town of Kent doesn't have a facility readily set up, so they were going to possibly purchase like a small ready-made shed. As long as they can back a truck up to it, they can get the pallet jacks and no problem. So I know the town of Kent and town of Carmel specifically were very excited about this because they were all spending quite a bit of money to get rid of these products. So
Is anybody else,
Go ahead.
is anybody else entering an agreement with them, or?
So I don't know if they're if you mean like if they're entering into some type of legal like contract.
Yeah.
I don't know, because that's between each town and the contractor. We were really there to introduce them and just say, hey, this just kind of make the rounds. And Southeast and Putt Valley already had vendors that were already doing the same. I guess one of the things is the vendor has to be in New York to be able to be part of this program. The vendor we were previously using, I believe, was from New Jersey. So they, we were paying to get rid of the products.
They have insurance and everything?
Oh yeah, oh, it's a big company.
I mean, is there any requirements for any certain insurance, or, just
Well, there
thinking
are-
if they're on our property and they're collecting this?
There are town requirements, and that was my next question, is are they providing insurance for this?
Margot said she would work with them on that when we met. They were gonna hook up with them and get all the documentation they needed, so, yeah. So I guess that's something that we can follow up with
So I'll follow up with Margaret
Yeah.
in the morning about the
Yeah.
insurance.
And, I think really a step in the right direction for, because we were paying, I think Margot said it was like $6,000. You know, the fees for the residents were anywhere from like $10 to $30, depending on the item. If it was a big TV or if it was a computer, depending on the size, but you're charging for that. So what happens is you find that people slip it into the dumpsters or slip it into the garbage. They put it in a garbage bag, you know, we're getting these items that are potentially hazardous into our waste stream. And of course, get a lot of chatter.
Sean, did you say that the charge of the manufacturer will be paying for these items?
Correct.
So then I'm anticipating that when we're purchasing these items, we're going to start adding that.
I mean, that's what we said, obviously. At the end of the day, the consumer always pays. People tend to, they say, well, you know, I paid for it once, I don't want to pay for it twice. So I guess in this case, you're going to pay for it once. You know, but yeah. So along with that, we have to approve a change in the fee schedule for the recycling center. And we have a proposed set of fees. It drops off the electronic waste items, and they made minor changes to things that they're fine to do. So for instance, getting rid of an air conditioner, the price has dropped $5. Propane tanks went from 15 down to 5. There's certain items that have they changed the pricing to more comply with what it actually costs to get rid of things. And then, yes. And so, any questions or conversation on the proposed new form?
Yeah, you should be.
Did you hear us? You should be able to mute them.
Yeah, and so M. Dorset continued to mute, and they're arguing with me, and they keep unmuting themselves. So I've explained to them that their audio is distracting and disrupting the meeting, and they just continue to unmute. And
But the host should be able to mute them and lock it.
yeah, and I'm trying, but they just keep coming back on, and I'm explaining to them that they have all kinds of noise coming through that's being disruptive, and they're just not cooperating.
That's the first.
Yeah.
He's saying that,
Okay.
that you should be able to mute them,
yeah,
override their
yeah.
actions.
So I just have to keep, I'm gonna stay on it. I'm explaining.
So tonight you're looking to approve the updated form?
Yeah,
And then
because
we'll work on agreements or more details with the recycling.
Well, it sounds like you don't need any agreements, we just need to get their insurance.
I would suggest maybe an indemnification and hold harmless, something, you know, it doesn't have to be the Magna Carta, of course, but just taking in addition to the insurance. You know, just for, like Pete said before, trucks coming in and out of the sanitation facility.
I'm not worried about the trucks as much as I am worried about somebody slipping it forward.
Yep.
So I will make a motion that we approve the amended fee schedule for the recycling center as submitted to the town board this evening. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Second item, a couple of weeks ago, we had a resignation from our planning board chairman. We appointed a new planning board member last meeting. We just need to now formalize the appointment of the chairman. Between now and the end of this year, I will make a motion that we appoint the current vice chairman, Ron Taylor, as the chairman to lead the planning board between now and the end of this year, December 31st, 2023. So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. First on my agenda is a Putnam Lake study. The town board has previously been given the two studies, one by GEI and the other by Lake Management. Now they're not Lake Management, Princeton Hydro. I met with the Park Advisory Board last Thursday and discussed it, and they have recommended GEI. It was also my recommendation that we go with GEI. The GEI proposal is focused on what I think we need to be looking at in that lake, and that is the lake bottom sediments and the amount of generated. Within the proposal by GEI, there are a couple of alternatives. One is for them to reach out to the Army Corps of Engineers with an estimated cost of $1,390, and the other one is to do additional sediment testing for the amount of $1,600. I don't know that it's necessary at this time to reach out to the Army Corps, and as we proceed forward with this, we will need to submit a joint application to both the DEC and the Army Corps, which is vetted through the DEC. So, like I said, I don't think we need to spend that kind of money, but I would recommend that we spend the additional $1,600. And unless anybody's got any questions about the study, I'd like to make a motion to approve the GEI proposal to the town of Patterson in the amount of $15,467 and authorize the supervisor to execute any and all documents necessary to give effect to this resolution. So,
Second.
Just have a question on the proposal.
sure.
Something else too. On the last couple of pages, 7 and 8, there's lines, but it's paragraphs crossed out, there's exhibits crossed out. Is that by them, by us?
No, that was by them.
Is it just, with
Yes,
the
we-
standard agreement, and then it just doesn't, that doesn't pertain to us?
Correct.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, next up is a discussion on Stagecoach Road. You all may remember at the last meeting, we had a property owner on Stagecoach Road wish to abandon a section of Stagecoach Road. And we had a little bit of a discussion about how to proceed with that. Counselor, do you have any additional information for us?
Only that a public hearing will need to be set before we can abandon that. And I know we had talked last time about needing to, schedule a description of that area. So that was one of the things we were gonna work towards.
So there is being as it's mostly forested and abutting state lands, there is a section of highway law that allows us to abandon a road with the consent of the property owners, but we can't fence it off. And there's another section that would allow us to go straight to the county and abandon it if nobody's using it.
So was the road never opened?
Well, see, this is where it gets a little complicated. The road hasn't been in use, at least the lower portions of the road haven't been in use for at least 20 years. But we can't find where it was ever formally abandoned. So then the question is, do we need to abandon the whole road, or can we just abandon the section that we're looking at right now, and what's the best process for doing that?
I think the cleanest is, if we don't have any record of it having been abandoned, would be to abandon the entire thing, so that there's no issue in the future for someone claiming that, someone buys property and claims that the road is still open and never was abandoned. So I think that's the cleanest thing to do, so you don't have any issues.
Okay, but we're gonna need a written description on that section of road, a way to do it without sending a surveyor out there and having to spend $10,000 to do it.
Is there any chance that, years ago with the subdivision, is there any point in time where there was a survey done showing the road?
That's a road by use if it's a road by any.
Okay,
So,
yeah. So probably we need a surveyor to come in and do it then. Yeah.
all right, then I'm gonna table this for tonight, and you and I are gonna have further conversations, because I think there may be another way to skin the cat without going through a formal abandonment process. You look at town law 207.
Okay,
211, I'm sorry, 211. So,
okay, we'll do.
all right, we'll take a look at that.
And if anything you have on the prior history of the road, will just help me know exactly what we're dealing with.
Well, that's the biggest problem we have, is we can't find any really old history, let alone any history regarding recent discontinuance of use of that road. So, and we have service.
So, if I could ask, if we abandon the road, then would that mean that highway would not be turning onto that road to maintain it?
It's talking about the wooded portion down below the house.
Not being entire road.
Yeah.
Not the entire road.
From Birch down, no,
No, just
from
where,
the section of the turnaround down.
Right.
yeah, and that, the issue has been, what we talked about the last meeting, the issue is that apparently it really hasn't been open in years, but because of the potential for it, and people have seemed to be parking up there, other things have been happening up there.
Two separate sections we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're talking about a section that the town had previously maintained to the house that is not lived in, the gentleman who requested. The second section is the wooded, I say the wooded portion, the portion that goes down all the way to the bottom of the hill, which, you say 20 years, I bet it's been
And
even
there are
more
no
than that.
homes on this.
Not that section that we're talking about, yeah.
Okay, then I know.
Probably
Yeah,
like an old
yeah.
farmer's laneway or something.
Yeah.
There's one house, sorry.
What's that?
There's one house there.
No, beyond that house
Yeah,
though.
that's close, way more than.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that, you know, we wouldn't be talking about abandoning the section of road where the house is, it's beyond that, which has become problematic. And you see it all the time with roads that we call paper roads, which are shown on plats, but they've either never been opened or they have been, their use was discontinued years ago, but if not formally abandoned, then it could become an issue later on if someone says, well, the town never abandoned it, we should be maintaining it, you know? So that's what we're trying to avoid and take care of going forward.
Thanks for doing my thing. Do you have a resident trying to log in, trying to get in the meeting? I think we just got a text from someone that they're trying to get in the meeting.
I think I had everyone admitted, check with them again, I think everyone should be in, and they should all be able to hear you guys. We just had to mute 2 individuals previously, that was the hiccup.
All right, next on my agenda is just an update.
I'm sorry, did we ever look in to see if we had any police reports or police activity on that?
No, we have not.
And we notified the residents that were complaining that if they see that, any activity to notify the police?
We've talked to them, yes. Good. All right, ALS service contract, so, is everybody doing? Sir?
Let me, I'm Sal Triano, one of the owners that actually live on Stagecoach Lane.
Stand a little closer to the mic.
Sorry. My name is Sal Triano. I live on Stagecoach Lane, 11 Stagecoach Lane, which is actually the property that goes entirely up Stagecoach Road to the top, along that end. So I just really would like to understand what's being proposed and what you're doing. Because we still do use a segment of that road to get onto portions of the property.
So, Stagecoach Lane is down by
Bottom.
Haviland Hollow.
Correct.
Correct?
Bottom.
That's what we're talking
But
about.
then the segment off of that goes up to Stagecoach Road. That's the piece you're talking about.
That's the correct, that's the piece we're talking about.
And so the abandonment is, I mean, you have proposals of what you're proposing to do and what happens with that as you go forward.
Well, if it's a formal abandonment process, what happens is the property that's being abandoned, the road that's being abandoned, gets split between the adjacent property owners.
So if that's the case, that means that part of it will go to the county, because one side is county predominant.
County and or state, yeah.
And the other side would then be mine. How could I maintain vehicle access onto the portions that I currently use?
Well, then we wouldn't be abandoning that. These are some of the details we need to work out.
All right, well, very good. Yeah, just as we move forward, just keep me informed. That we would really appreciate it.
Sure.
It would be helpful just to understand which direction you folks are going and what limitations it has in the future for the property.
Sure.
Because it is a fairly substantial size property.
I would ask one favor, though.
Yes.
You could contact my office in the morning and give me all your contact information.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Great.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. All right, as everybody's aware, the county has switched ALS vendors. The new vendor has provided 2 contracts to the town of Patterson to provide ALS service or to allow the town to bill for ALS service. The first contract was a flat rate at $400. The second contract was a contract that would, the town would be responsible for paying $298 for every ALS call that was answered in the town of Patterson, and would automatically go to $400. We're currently paying significantly less on an ALS call. We're paying less. We're actually receiving less in income on an ALS call, in the tune of $46 for a Medicaid call and roughly about $80 for a Medicare call. So it would, entering into those contracts, as we discussed, would be a great financial hardship for the town of Patterson. I met last week with our EMS administrator, our controller, and representatives of Empress to talk about the contract and try to find out a little bit more information on that. They were less than forthcoming with any information. It appeared at the meeting that their purpose was just to hear the town say, we're not going to enter into a contract, which I repeatedly said that wasn't the case. We're just looking for clarification, more information on, what the contract entails. I also met today with representatives of the county. We had a very good conversation about the potential contract. They are encouraging the town to enter into a short-term contract in the amount of $298 per call. I told them that's something that we would consider if it was financially responsible to do so. And that's pretty much where we left it. Decisions were made, no guarantees were offered. Next week, I have a call with our EMS administrator to talk to proclaim.
I've tried every place conceivable to get somebody to play, and I cannot.
Our current billing. And whether an increase in our billing will actually generate more revenue. And that is where we stand with ALS right now. Questions?
So, we're not going to enter into that because that's exactly what we said up front, the 298 for this year?
Well, not at this time, because, if we enter into the contract right now, which my recommendation is, we enter into the contract with 298 per ALS call, and we're only receiving, $46 for a Medicaid call. The town of Patterson is basically paying for its own ALS service. And we're looking at a couple of different options in that regard. We're going to have to do that. I don't know that we are.
Okay, so we're not going to get involved in the short term.
I don't know that we're not. We're trying to work out the numbers. No decision has been made.
Is this agreement, this first agreement is for the intercept, it's July 16th through December 31st?
I'm not sure which one you're looking at. What is the dollar figure on it? 298?
400 per call.
All right, so that was the first agreement that they gave us.
Okay, so that's great.
Well, and then they came back with the second agreement that said for the remainder of this year, they would charge us $298 for an ALS call, and it would automatically go to $400 in January.
So for the remainder of this year, from July through December. Is the agreement, I'm just trying to get, where are we today? Today's August 9th. This is July 16th. Do we have ALS coverage?
We have ALS coverage in the town as far as I know, but we are not billing to the ALS company at this point.
Okay.
Can we bill for ALS calls though?
We don't have a contract.
That's the only issue right now, right? We just can't bill for ALS calls.
Right.
Folks,
They're
I'm
under
sorry,
contract.
the folks sort of interrupt, are saying if you guys could sit a little closer to the microphones, we're having trouble hearing you. Thank you.
They're under contract with the county, so they are responsible to respond to any ALS call. So we're not going to not be without ALS.
That is correct.
We
On
just
the
can't-
other hand, but the county contract that they've entered into requires them getting contracts with every other EMS provider in the county. So, and no other agency has signed the contract as of yet.
Now, does that include now the fire departments that can now bill?
Yes, and they're actually saying it's the fire departments that aren't billing. They want contracts with them as well. And that presents a whole nother issue, because if you read General Municipal Law 209, which they've just changed, 209B, it essentially, allows fire departments to bill, but it requires them, if they're gonna bill, to have ALS service, and it requires them to work out an agreement with the agent, with the, not agency having jurisdiction, essentially the town, to allow them to bill. We would set the billing rates for them. So that means we have to sit down and negotiate a whole agreement with Patterson Fire Department for them to run their ambulance.
I know in the fire departments, this is a huge issue.
Yeah.
It's been a source of concern. They've had multiple meetings on these things. I'm talking about just countywide, not even within our fire departments.
Because one big issue for a long time was that they weren't allowed to bill. So
Yes.
the fire departments that have ambulances, rescue squads, never could bill, and now they can. But now it's opening a whole another can of worms where, how do they bill, and
Yeah.
they're going to have to bill for ALS, and how do they, at least, so Patterson Ambulance, they get an ALS call and they bill for it, and they get $40 or whatever from Medicare or whatever it was. How do they pay Empress the rest?
Right.
So they'd be losing money in a volunteer fire department.
Yeah.
All right, but I just have one more question. Do we have EMTs that can provide ALS?
EMTs can't provide ALS, it has to be paramedics.
Correct, okay.
And we do have one paramedic.
We have one,
One.
okay.
But it's
And that's-
a little more than,
Isn't that Bobby Kearns himself?
No.
Oh,
it's a little more than, okay, well, you're a paramedic, well, now we can be an ALS bus.
Okay.
Because that paramedic can only operate as an EMT on our ambulance right now. So it'd be a
Okay.
whole nother thing where we'd have to get
Certificate of need.
certificate of need
approvals.
for ALS, and it's a whole, we would
And
have
we
to
have to
establish
equip it.
ourselves, yeah.
so we cannot provide that with our current,
Not
Yeah.
right
Not
now.
currently, no.
okay.
I believe that's one of the things that we're considering, is getting those approvals if it's cost efficient, because of all these issues that have been presented with ALS service in the last, years.
Okay, so how much time do we have before we don't have coverage?
I don't know.
Oh,
That's a
okay.
very good question that I don't think anybody has an answer. The county has a contract with an agency to provide ALS service within the county. The contract requires them to go get contracts with all the other agencies. What happens if nobody does?
Mhm.
And we are not the only agency that is evaluating how they're gonna provide ALS service. So there's a lot of moving parts to this.
Mhm.
And from what I understand, with the county contract, they got it a little lower because of the billing ambulance services. That was part of the deal to give a lower county contract rate.
That is correct.
Okay. Well, my feeling is, it's very comforting that we have our own ambulance service, and, when something happens and, we talk about $40, $80, whatever it is, when someone loses a loved one and we didn't have the means to provide them with the advanced life support, $40 is nothing,
Well, it's not, but you have to understand that, if we go forward with the county contract at $400, that increases our budget by about $150,000 a year. And that's roughly, 4 points on your taxes,
Mhm.
right?
Do we
We're
have
already
a
breaking
right-
the tax gap.
So do we have a right to negotiate this and until we can put something in place?
Well, that's the
like short-term?
$64 question. And when I met
Mhm.
with, members of Empress, we sat down, we started talking about our numbers versus their numbers. We asked for, justification on their numbers. They felt our numbers weren't correct. We asked for clarification on that. And then the conversation turned towards the fact that this contract has already been negotiated with the county legislature, and he wasn't negotiating it again with the town. puts us in a sticky place.
Puts everyone
I guess
in
we
the same
should so
place.
advise our county legislator about all of this.
She was at the meeting.
Oh.
And
okay.
Embers is in a good position because they're buying up they have a lot of the contracts within Westchester and Dutchess now in the surrounding areas. So to contract, if we were to figure, okay, until we established our own ALS system, we'd contract with another ambulance company, it'd be very difficult because a lot of them are being bought out by Embers. So down in Westchester, a lot of agencies that have their own ALS, there's a lot of other agencies that are contracting with them, like Eastchester, the town of Eastchester EMS. Eastchester EMS they have their own ALS. They're getting contracted to other municipalities because they don't want to go with paid services like like an Empress or whoever. Ossining, town of Ossining or village Ossining EMS has their own ALS. They're getting contracts with all other towns now, so that's what's happening down there.
Yeah, I know Dutchess was in a very similar position, only probably in last December. This was the same conversation.
Yep.
Their ALS costs went skyrocketed within the county.
And where are they now?
They have Empress.
They have much higher budgets, I think, a lot of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is all I have. Ms. Smith?
Yes. First item on my agenda is I have 2 conference requests for the Justice Court clerks for some educational training between 9:17 and 9:20. I'd like to make a motion to approve both Cindy and Corinne to attend the New York State AMCC's 43rd Annual Conference for Court Clerk Educational Training in the budget amount of 900, do we have a total here? 995 for Cindy and 1,200 and looks like 47 for Corinne. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. The second item on my agenda is the Sharon Road stop sign. I guess we're looking to amend chapter 150 of the Patterson Town Code to provide a stop sign at the intersection of Newport Road and Sharon Road. I did actually speak to some of the residents there, and they said there's a lot of traffic coming through Newport Road and heading down Sharon. So I'd like to ask the town clerk to advertise for a notice of public hearing on August 23rd, 2023 at 7 p.m.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And you've introduced local law, the resolution for local introductory law, number 3, correct?
Yeah, I don't have it here.
You don't have that?
I have for the public, oh, I'm sorry, the resolution's on the back page. Yes, so I'll make a motion to approve local law number 3, providing for public notice and hearing, and enter this into the record as read. So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Peter?
All right, first on my agenda, I have a highway request for a fire alarm system. So we have a memo here from our acting highway superintendent, Ed Foster, requesting to put in a fire alarm system in the small garage, also referred to as the other building. So he's requesting, I'd like to make a motion to approve $2,047 for all the equipment to add a fire alarm system in the small garage, the highway department. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I have a memo from our EMS administrator, Robert Kearns. He's requesting Jeffrey Sickler for his employment status to be changed from temporary to permanent as an EMT with the town of Patterson EMS. He has met all civil service requirements and is currently on the civil service list and met everything that was required. So I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to enter a resolution hiring Jeffrey Sickler as permanent part-time emergency medical technician for the town of Patterson. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That is all I have.
Charles?
Next, we have a letter from the Patterson Fire Department requesting our approval for 2 new members, Angela Moss and Jack Lagan. And we have a resolution here, so I will make a motion that the town board approve the hiring of Angela Moss and Jack Langen and entering the resolution into the record as read. So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Good 2 additions.
Excuse me?
Good 2 additions.
Yes, yeah.
Yes,
I
yes.
believe Angela's already been with the fire department, is coming back. So, this came in late. We've got a request from the Patterson Justice Court to approve, actually their recommendation is Elder Sagatumi Carpentry and Painting to construct a wooden cabinet. Did they have a chance to take a look at this?
Mhm. Yeah.
And this was part of a grant to enclose the IT equipment and phone equipment over there, rather than having it stand out in the office.
It's nice.
But isn't there something about hardware or something?
So, Elder Sagatumi, if I'm saying that correctly, I hope I am, is all-inclusive, and they're using oak material to build the cabinet. The problem is handcraft cabinetry, they didn't specify the material, and they basically said the town has to supply the hardware, which is gonna up their proposal somewhat. So, I would like to make a motion to approve Elder Sagatumi Carpentry and Painting to construct a wood cabinet for the Patterson Justice Court in the amount of $3,200. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is it I have for other business. Anyone else?
I just have a question. Have we received the county sales tax money or their ARPA money?
No, we have a contract to do so, but it is a reimbursement program.
Strictly reimbursement?
Yes,
For both?
yes.
Did we approve the contract already? I can't remember.
Yeah, I believe you did.
I
Okay.
think it was a while ago.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
All right.
fair enough.
That was when we had to supply the specifics on the projects and the ways that we would spend it
Yeah.
for the different multiple projects that we earmarked.
Yep.
Where are we at with those projects?
Well, we are working on the water line coming up. We just signed the contracts today to do the testing that the board authorized for the extension on the front street of the water system. The other big project is the EMS building in the back. I've made all the submittals into SHPO, and SHPO has signed off on the project.
Who's SHPO?
State Office of Historic Preservation. Anytime you're breaking ground anywhere, you need to get their permission, and you need to get their permission now to get through any other state agency. So we had to get their approval. We've had pre-construction meetings with DEP, pre-application meetings with DEP and DEC, as you're all well aware. We have Rennie Engineering has come up with plans showing the amount of impervious coverage that we are going to be creating, and those were sent down this week to DEP for DEP to acknowledge that we don't need any permits from the DEP, and we are currently preparing the application to the DEC, and Renia is currently working on designing the building. And as soon as we get preliminary plans, I will be happy to share them and/or anything else. I also, full disclosure of everything going on, had a Zoom meeting today with Collier Engineering and DOT trying to move the highway improvements that we have a grant for on 311 along. So, as ongoing process with everybody, DOT, who's had the plans and all the information now for months, agreed today that they would probably, hopefully take a look at them and get back to us next week with the final review. Once we get the permit, then I can lock in the DASNY funding that we have for the project and move that, though I did have a conversation with Collier Engineering today. We're getting late in the season. I was hoping to start this in the spring. Some of the improvements involved in that are going to require resurfacing of asphalt areas, and I know DOT generally will not approve that kind of work with the onset of winter coming, because they don't want to have to worry about plowing it. So, you know, I talked to them at this point about coming up with a phasing plan, which we hadn't anticipated, but shouldn't add anything to the project. Public recognition. Does any member of the public wish to?
Hello, I'm Denise O'Corolla. I'm trustee on the Patterson Library Board, here to share some events with you. The first one we have is on Thursday, August 17th. It's in conjunction with the Friends of the Great Swamp. It's the Plain Art event, and we're calling all artists and photographers to come and use the gazebo, the Great Swamp, and the gardens as inspiration for their work, and we're also inviting the public to come and watch them as they create their works. That's from 10 to 1. And please register at the library. All of these programs, please register for. Our second one is Tuesday, August 22nd at 6 p.m. It's the Sankofa Drummers and Dancers Performance. It's a West African dance performance by professional African drummers and dancers in their authentic costumes. And that's Tuesday, August 22nd at 6 p.m. Again, please register at the Patterson Library site. And backed by popular demand, our Yoga in the Park is such a sensation that we're doing another session that starts on Thursday, September 7th, the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th at 10:30 in the morning, and that will be at the Library Park. Then we have an Art East exhibit on September 7th to October 4th, an artist reception and panel discussion. And there's also on Thursday, September 21st at 6 p.m. is a culmination of the event. And this one is very special. We are proud to introduce Jeff Bellinger is coming to tell all about the call of Kilimanjaro and everything that he did on his trip. We're very excited to have him there. He has been on the History Channel, the Travel Channel, PBS, Amazon Prime, and more. And that's on Friday, September 15th at 7 p.m. Again, please register and make sure you register early so it doesn't fill up.
Thank you. All great programs.
My name is Richard, and I live in Kent, and I called earlier today to complain about parking on Bullet Hill Road, where I think before Memorial Day, Patterson put up no parking signs there, and I wanted to see if there was some, I'm not familiar with any procedures or anything like that there, so you have to excuse me. You guys are all pretty professional.
Wait, we're all just lay people here having a friendly conversation.
Okay. Well, you go get talking. No. I've been riding on this trail ever since it opened, and I always parked on Bullet Hill Road, and it was very convenient for me, and it was also just the right amount of bike time to get me down to Ice Pond and back. And now I have to park near the paint gun place and on 311.
Yes.
And it's like another mile and a half, and my family always likes to take walks if I rode a bike, and we don't get to the bridge or the pond or anything else when everyone does this. And I just don't see the sense of not being able to park on Bullet Hill Road. It seems like it's a perfectly well-designed parking place there. It's not a busy road, and I was just wondering what that was all about.
Can I speak on
There was
this?
a way to
I
start
actually,
having.
I live up the street from that. It actually is
Wait,
very
stop.
dangerous. Oh, I'm sorry. I live over there and it's actually very dangerous. People come through that railroad and come straight around. So if you park on Bullet Hole and then walk across, it's extremely dangerous. I'm not positive that's the reason for it, but I do know that that's part of it.
So,
Okay, I think that could be resolved by some signs or something else. I mean, it's also, it's very puzzling because it's confusing whether you can park in the parking lot that they made there.
they didn't actually make a parking lot there,
No, it's
and if
just
you
like an access
look,
road.
and I love this, I recently fielded some calls from somebody else who shared your concerns, who wanted me to actually improve that parking lot. And said there were no parking signs there. Well, there's a no parking sign at the entrance on the left-hand side. There is one on the right-hand side in the back that says emergency access, no parking, and there's one across the street.
Yeah,
They-
that area has always said no parking.
Yes.
But everybody always parks there. But
They always
can't
do.
even try to park there, because I did it once and I had a Civic.
Yeah.
And it's way too uncomfortable.
So,
So I was just hoping that someone could make this situation a little better. I don't think Bullet Hill is such a bad place to park. I think parking where the paint gun place is on that S curve is hardly the safest place that you want to go to. And there's no signs when you're driving to that place of that there's a driveway. I always have to turn on my right blinker way ahead of time.
There is a parking area at Lake Tenetta. There's a nice parking area there. There's also a parking area by co-backers. I use the bike path myself. I love it. It's a great bike path. But one of the conversations this board had when the bike path first opened was concerned because parking areas really weren't created when the bike path was opened.
so when they were proposing the original bike path, right, there was no access in the town of Patterson. None.
Yeah, they didn't design
And-
anything. which
No,
is-
and so,
But if
you know,
live
I had
close
put,
there, it's like, I mean, that place, it's just so convenient for me. I can
Sure.
Get over there, I can get some exercise, it's really my gym.
but we're gonna make you a better place, hopefully someday in the future. So, you know, when this was all going on, I put together the property owner that owns Liberty Paintball together with Metro North, and they worked out a deal. And then the county got in the middle of it because they had funding to do it. Now, we've been waiting here in Patterson for about 2 years, and I keep hearing they're starting construction any day now to build a formal parking lot and to change the access over by the Liberty Paintball. So there'll be a beautiful parking lot over there with improved access, so you won't have to worry so much about the S turn. And there'll be plenty of parking over there. But really, it's a safety issue over by Bullet Hole. And we've heard from a number of the residents over there who are not happy about the people parking over there.
Well, I think they had a similar problem when the bike path opened in Carmel. There wasn't much parking there. If you go past Toro, the restaurant, and you know, there's the access there. They put up no parking signs all along the right side there for a while too, and it's because the residents didn't want people there. And these are our roads, and we got together and we formed a group and we petitioned Carmel, and they overturned and got rid of those signs. So I felt like I'm seeing the same thing here on Bullet Hill Road, but I do agree that there should be, I would propose some signs warning traffic coming through rather than just outline, you know, making it a crime.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? At this point, I'll open it up to anybody joining us by Zoom. If you would unmute, dare I say that? And if you would state your name for the record.
I don't have anybody that wants to unmute or wants to speak at this time. They can speak.
Okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.